Which would you have anything good to say?
Do I have anything good to say?
I was actually
So you're just relying on me.
I was actually surprised that you could come down here. I'm like, yeah.
Why? You didn't think? Did you think I was going to text you like at some point and go, "Hey, I can't make it"?
No, if you're going to say you're going to come, you're going to come. But I just didn't think that you would actually come down
and be on time. I was on time.
Yeah, I just didn't think it. And
the weird thing is, it doesn't feel right to be sitting at a table with you and there's no food because I use you for meals quite often.
I know,
almost daily.
That's what I said. We'll get you a drink.
We should have at least an agreement in place that I think lunch twice a week on you is fair.
We've been picking it up.
Yeah.
We actually could refer like a normal person.
I hit you good the other day though at Prince Street Pizza. $50. You were like $50.
Like for some pizza. I think I fed you and some.
But we did eat almost the whole thing.
Did Vanessa have some?
No, I don't even eat pizza. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you don't even tell her.
No. Are you going to clip this?
Can we FaceTime?
Don't clip this. The pint-sized warrior.
What, she'd be upset with you?
She would just roll her eyes. I don't know if she'd be upset. Like, it's not like it causes a fight.
Basically, you're cheating on your future
through
wife.
Through
food.
100%. Yeah. I got my eyes on some donuts after this. I just passed Carl's Donuts on the way.
Home.
No way would I bring pizza home. What are you, out of your mind?
You know, I have a special guest. We have Vanessa on FaceTime.
Yeah. Oops.
That's interesting.
Yeah. No.
Where I was cheating on wasn't food, marketing.
Marketing? Oh, yeah. On me?
No, for me in general, right? Like for my wife. Oh. Basically, like I'm marketing. I'm spending money to help bring in business.
You spend a lot of money marketing.
This is, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I got to compete against, billboards and radios and TVs from other attorneys.
Listen, I think it's a good segue into what you do.
True. I was hoping when you would drive here, you'd say, hey, I got into a car accident. I need the problem solver.
I told you, you're at a point where
you drive around to meet me for lunch because I'm hoping this guy's going to get hit with a Mercedes that says podcaster on the
You need to just start crashing into people yourself. Like rent a car, take the insurance every day.
I'm looking
and just crash into someone. Just crash into someone and then go, hey, oddly enough, I can, sorry about the fender bender, but I
have
can
to be rear-ended.
Yeah.
That sounds bad to say that I have to be rear-ended, but I have to be the victim, right?
Right.
I can't hit somebody else.
Wait, why?
Because I can't be at fault. If you hit somebody, then you're at fault. Someone has to hit you from behind or T-bone you.
So you need to
I have time to treat.
You need to like pass someone, lane change,
it needs to be
heavy brake, impact.
It needs to be an expensive car to make sure the policy limits are very high.
Right.
So it can't be like a guy with a 1983 Hyundai.
So you should just once a month
in the highest zip code.
Once a month rent a car, right?
Okay.
Camp outside the Bentley dealership, and as they drive off the lot, you follow them, you cut them off, you slam on the brakes, boom.
That's actually not a bad strategy.
It's not bad. Can I be held liable for that?
We're going to have to clip that one out. I am hoping that when I take you out for lunch, that there's an investment because I'm hoping eventually someone's going to hit you.
It's just...
And then you won't believe it. Because I will share with you, most people that I know, eventually they get into a car accident and they'll call me.
Right.
So the more people I know, the more likely they're going to call me.
Right. So is that why you keep saying, let's meet at Durango? Because you know that I live close by and then most accidents happen within a mile of your home. So you're like, you're just trying to increase my odds of getting smashed out there on the road? I'm open to getting hit, by the way.
It would be good.
I would like to be a car accident victim.
But the problem with it is, if your car gets damaged, you'd be upset. You'd want a whole new car, right? You wouldn't want just damage.
No, it's time to upgrade anyway.
It's time to upgrade.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you have any friends that actually have real car accidents? Because you keep sending me people that...
I send you people, but they haven't qualified yet.
They're not qualified
I keep sending you at-fault people. I need to send you the people... Basically, I have a lot of friends that are bad drivers, which is of no use to you, right? You need victims, not perpetrators. You don't need perps.
People that basically that are victimized by other bad drivers.
Right. All right.
It's a good question for you. How come you don't have a dash cam in your car? I was thinking about it.
I don't know. It never even occurred to me.
These days you have dash cams that are in the front and the back because if someone rear ends you have the video. But these days, a lot of drivers out there are hit and runs, right? The license plate. But you really should have a dash cam. It's extremely important these days.
Really? All right.
Would you like that? You mind having a little camera?
I guess not. I never thought about it.
Stylish one.
They make them like specifically for that?
Yeah. I mean, there's ones, somehow there's a rear camera as well that can go by your license plate. But the truth is if someone hits you, at least that you have the evidence. That's the problem like with your friend got into an accident.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a camera, so they're looking at the other dash cam to see. It looks like it's her fault, but if they had the dash cam on her car, maybe it would look a little bit different. The reason why she got into an accident. But you should actually get a dash cam. I guess I have to invest.
All right, I'll look into that.
So tell me, ask me some good questions.
Ask you some good questions?
Ask me some accident questions so we make some content. What's
the average length of time it takes from the time you get into an accident when you're not at fault to actually getting paid?
So most people don't realize they say they got into a car accident and they always say that they've heard that their friend got like $200,000. When I've worked in the law firm for over 10 years, the problem with it is, one, you have an accident, you're injured, which is not good, right? You're not feeling well, you have to go for treatment. So it's not going to the chiropractor one time or two times. The people get these big settlements. They're going for surgeries. I mean, one of the jokes I have is that they're getting a new spine because they're in so much pain and so much suffering from the accident that it costs money for the medical bills, and those medical bills add up. And that's where there's a value for pain and suffering. And the lawyer basically is fighting to get money for you, but it also goes back to how much treatment that you have. And then it also goes back to the policy limits. I've mentioned before, if someone has a small policy limit of $25,000, you're not getting $5 million. So
all you're getting is the 25.
You're getting $25,000. So it's a problem because people always say, oh, I got into an accident, I'm injured, I don't feel good, I'm going to get $1 million. What happens if the guy has no insurance? And a lot of people, it's kind of very interesting because of what's going on with like Trump and immigration. There are a lot of people that basically don't have insurance. And that just means that, if you're not from this country, it could be anybody, right? Like, you lose your job, you don't have money and insurance lapse. Or basically some people pay for insurance monthly, which you probably, right, pay monthly, or you paid for maybe a year in full.
Yeah.
Some people pay month to month to month. And if you miss a month, even though you have the insurance card, it says you have insurance, but meanwhile, you don't have
You lost
insurance.
your coverage.
People don't have money to pay insurance. And insurance is going to go up now, especially because of the fires and just because it seems like these insurance companies think they're not making money. It seems like they make a lot of money. Not everyone's saying it's an accident, but I think with the economy, the fires, all this insurance just kind of goes up. Recently, several people have told me their insurance is going up dramatically. Have you checked recently? People don't even know. They don't even look into it.
Auto pay, yeah. I don't even know.
That's one of the problems. Auto pay, if you really look.
These are questions for the pint-sized warrior. She could tell you. She tells me eggs are expensive now. That's all I know. Yeah. And bacon. Bacon and eggs through the roof
gone up
right now.
So in regards to the payment of money, it could be a few years, especially if the case goes to litigation, which means the lawyer has to basically go to take it to trial.
That was my next question, actually, was how many settle versus go to trial? Most of them settle, right?
Most of them do settle. I do notice, from working in the firm that, if it's like a slip and fall case or certain cases that are more difficult, it seems like the insurance companies want to fight it. Mm-hmm. So it just takes longer and longer and longer and just gets drawn out. And it can be several years. So people get upset, right? If they're in pain and suffering and they need money to basically help, pay. Maybe they lost their job for 6 months or a year. They don't have any money, but it could take a few years. The minimum probably could be 3 to 6 months for something small. But it could take a few years to actually get a large settlement. Someone recently that I know got into an accident and they actually got approximately $250,000, and it took them maybe about 3 years going back and forth. In his particular case, I think that he needed surgery, but he chose like, hey, I don't want to go into the knife situation, which is interesting because people have to make that decision. Hey, if my back hurts, do I go for surgery or do I just try to ride it out a little bit, right? If you go for surgery, the case is worth more money.
My friend is going through this right now, which I'm afraid to tell you this because you're going to go, how come I didn't get this case? I didn't even know that he got in an accident. So he's like a friend of a friend, but he's my friend too. Okay. Known him a long time. This is in LA. And he literally just had back surgery like 2 weeks ago, hoping to get more money.
The thing with it is, several people that I know that had surgeries, I feel like they're worse. Like they talk about surgery being good, but I mean,
their health meaning afterwards, right? Back surgery.
I haven't. Some people say things work out really well, and then certain people like they're in more pain, and they took out a chunk of their spine. Right. They put in some, pieces.
But how much of a difference is it that you're going to get? It's a lot
more, but I'll be honest with you.
It may not be worth it.
It's a game, right?
Right.
But the sad part is a game about your life.
Right.
And that's why having the right attorney, having a good attorney basically fighting for you and then also analyzing whether it's good or not to go for surgery. But it's really upon you how much pain and suffering that you're in.
Right.
And does it weigh it out? I mean, is it about the money at the point for pain and suffering, or is it about your health, or you can't walk? Even myself, actually, it's funny. My back bothers me, and sometimes I feel I have sciatica on my left leg.
Yeah.
Is it from a car accident? Is it from me being a police officer and having that gun belt on, which had a lot of weight on there, and wearing a vest? I don't really know. I mean, I've had a few accidents in the past. The question is, if I go for surgery, am I going to be better or worse? Mm-hmm. I don't really know. It scares me. And like for anyone that has to go under the knife for surgery, especially for a car accident or slip and fall, I just don't know if you're going to be better.
Right.
Just because you have that surgery. I know people that have knee surgery for knees when they get older and they're like, oh, I should have done it years ago. I've heard that more. But for car accidents and pain and suffering, it just makes me nervous. Even myself, I'm 48 now. As I get older, right, my back may bother me more. And I've never gotten into like a huge accident, but being a police officer or regular, car accident, I don't think it was ever that bad. But it bothers me. So imagine someone that's really in a lot of pain or really in a bad accident, like some of the friends that you've had that have had accidents, you have to live with that pain. So it's kind of scary, but it's never worth money, even if you got 200 grand
versus
or
your health,
$100,
right?
Like you can't walk, right? But definitely having the right attorney. And some people go to certain attorneys where they think that they're good, but they're not litigation attorneys. Litigation basically means where they go to trial. Mm-hmm. Some law firms in town, they'll sign you up and it's a litigation case and they'll give it to another attorney, which isn't really good in my eyes. You really want the main attorney that you're dealing with to handle the entire case,
right?
Because they know you and there's like a relationship.
Right.
I always believe
you don't want a handoff. You don't want to deal with a handoff.
I always believe in relationships and you want to meet with the attorney. A lot of times these days, they'll just talk on the phone. They don't want to meet in person because they're busy. But I mean, even if you're like my mechanic, right? You like want to see the mechanic. If you're an attorney and you're working on my body or my case, I want to see you. These days, I feel like attorneys don't want to meet with people and you have to find the right attorney. That's why my part of the problem solver and the network of attorneys is that basically that I can call different attorneys and say, look, this person really needs help. There's bad communication. Mm-hmm. Can you help them? Can you call them? They're upset.
That's what I was going to ask you next is the feedback I've gotten the most from friends that have had accidents and hired lawyers, especially like in LA. They're never happy with the process and the communication with the lawyer. Is that just but I hear it a lot, so I don't think it's specific to one lawyer. I feel like there's the expectation of the person that's been in the accident is not on par with how it actually plays out with the attorney, meaning communication-wise.
Absolutely. They actually say that if you're really, I've been through all kinds of different training and stuff, and it goes back to customer service for any business, right? But if you're on top of communication, even if your settlement was less, people will respect you more. Hey, the guy was calling me every single week. He was giving me an update. Like, how could you be upset,
Right.
I did actually have an accident where I don't think I ever told you, when I was a police officer off duty, and I got into an accident, and I had a few staples on my head. And
really?
And I was bleeding, and
wait, you got in an accident when you were on the job,
well, this particular accident where I got a few staples, it was after work.
Okay.
I was coming home and I got into this accident.
In your own car,
in my own car, and I was bleeding, and I hired an attorney. I was upset because it was one of these like billboard attorneys, but I never got the billboard attorney. I got like the associate,
right?
Which I always, to this day, I'm upset. Like I never got the billboard attorney, right? Because you see these billboards, like, you think they're like this celebrity, right? Like, you think that I never even got that guy, right? I got some other guy that was like in an office in the back.
Right.
Long story short, at the end of the whole case, I got like $643. But the thing with it is, it was like a bad case.
Wait, hold on. You got two staples in your head, and when it was all said and done, it was $643. So you got like $320 a staple.
So that's a good question. Was it the attorney?
Oh my God!
Bad case for whatever reason. I never got a ticket. It wasn't my fault, the accident, right? Mm-hmm. But then the problem is the ticket is for criminal purposes, and then there's civil. So the civil side, they can say, oh, you're responsible 80%. The other person is responsible 20%, right? So there's the civil side and there's the criminal side. But long story short, was the attorney not that great? Maybe if I would have had the billboard attorney, if he was so great working on the case, maybe I would have gotten more money, which is what I thought. And then the communication was bad. They weren't calling me all the time and giving me reassurance or good communication. Yep. But if the communication was really good, you'd be like, okay, no big deal. I got $600. But they called me every single week. They were on top of the communication. Communication is key. And if you're not going to get good communication, which is what people get upset about, you get upset with the law firm, especially if you wind up getting $643.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a problem. But communication's a problem. The reason why is a lot of these law firms, they get too big. They have thousands and thousands of clients. You just become a number. Right. So finding that right attorney, and I do believe, for me being the problem solver and a liaison with the network of attorneys, I've had this several attorneys that were not good with communication. I'm like, how do I refer you to somebody if you're not going to pick up the phone?
Right.
Or if you're not on top of their game,
Right.
or there's an issue. So I've had some family law attorneys back in the day where, I was just trying to help people, in general. And I'm like, I can't have you part of the network if you're not going to call these people back. And I can't even get in touch with you anymore.
Which I think that's what makes the most sense for people to go through you. Is you do a great job in being that liaison, that in-between guy to help stay on top of it for the client, right?
I think most people feel funny with an attorney, that when they try to call them or text them and so on, they feel weird and funny they're an attorney. But the truth is, they really have to do a good job. It's a business no matter what, right, of helping people. And they have to be on top of the game. But most people get intimidated by attorneys. So I feel like by me being a liaison and being a network, I can reach out to the attorney and say, like, look, they're upset. Can you just call them with communication? Even myself, I feel a little awkward sometimes being involved because I'm like telling the lawyer what to do, right? Just call the person back. I mean, 99% of the time, it's literally, can you call the person?
Right.
They're confused. Can you meet with
They
them,
just
right?
want feedback. They just want to know.
And most people talk so much legalese that they don't get it. They're like, they just have to explain, like, I need to treat, right?
Right.
I need
It's
to
a
feel
waiting
better.
game.
Yeah.
It's a treating and waiting game, right?
But I feel that most people are intimidated by a lawyer in a suit and tie.
Yeah.
And they don't want to ask questions. They feel they don't want to look stupid.
Right.
And some people, especially if you speak a different language. So I've noticed people that have speak, Spanish, or if they're Persian, speak Farsi. They don't fully understand the language. It's, the language is the second language. English is their second language. So when some of the lawyers use certain words, they don't understand. And sometimes if I'm with them, I'm like, do you understand what he's saying? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you tell the attorney that,
Right.
They don't want to look dumb.
Right.
But they use certain words, like even litigations. What does really litigation mean? It means they have to take the case that could take a few years to go to trial, have evidence, have experts, right? They don't understand what that means. Litigation is a simple word.
Right.
Most people don't.
Right.
Even when I was a police officer, I really fully didn't know what it means for a personal injury case to go to litigation or go to trial, and then negotiating along the way back and forth. But then you don't go to trial because you have a negotiation. I mean, the average person doesn't really get into a car accident. I mean, when's the last time that you had a car accident?
Ages ago. I couldn't.
Right? So
over 20 years.
So you don't know the process. It's an unusual situation, and you
Over
feel
30
intimidated,
years.
and you're uneducated about it, which no one talks about. There's two things that people don't talk about in school: how to deal with the police.
Yep.
Right. Everyone says call 911.
Yep.
But if someone is making an allegation against you, do you call 911? That's where you need to call a lawyer, right? If someone's making an allegation against you, calling the police is not the number you want to call.
Right.
You really want to call an attorney. But in school, right, you're always trained to call 911, call the police.
Right.
But when someone calls the police against you,
don't call the police.
don't call the police, right? You have to call, sad to say, a criminal defense attorney, even if you did something wrong, because you never know, right? You want protection and representation if someone's using the police or the government after you. Then the next thing is accident injury. When do you ever learn in school what to do if you got involved in an accident injury? Right?
Yeah.
Do you call the police? Do you not call the police? These days, back in the day, the police wouldn't come out if there was an accident.
Unless someone's injured, right? Or really, over like 1,200 in damage or something, or 500 in damage, whatever it is. What is it? I don't even know what it is.
Exactly. It changes.
Right? It's a question on the driver's test, though, right? I think it is. So. I think it, or it used to be. I don't know. It's been a while.
Well, here's the story. It depends upon the city, right? Henderson's separate. Henderson was coming out. North Las Vegas and Las Vegas, maybe they weren't at the time. Now, pretty much they'll come out, but there's less cops on the street now. So what do? They'll say, oh, just come to the police station. How do you get the bad guy or the guy that hit you that knows he's going to get a ticket or at fault to, hey, can you just drive to the police station real quick?
I'll meet you there.
That's why people are taking off, or they're running.
Right.
And there's a lot of hit and runs these days. And one thing that you've asked me before, which is very interesting, the cameras, right? We all see cameras. Everyone's like, oh, just check the cameras. Or when I was a cop, they're like, can't you just pull up the camera footage?
It doesn't work
that way.
First of all,
the police officers don't have camera footage. There's no access. They always think that your laptop, like, oh, you could just pull up the video. And also,
it's not like CSI Miami, no.
In this city, in this state, basically the laws don't allow you to record on those cameras. Those are traffic cameras specifically to monitor traffic for the Nevada Department of Transportation, right? If you need a police officer or something's backed up, there's problems with driving, through the city or the state. Other states are different. Today, I met with someone, they said in Chicago, there's cameras all over the place for red light cameras or radar. Some people believe that the red light cameras and the radar will cause an accident, more injuries, because people are trying to stop short because they don't want to get a ticket.
Oh,
or they'll go through the red light trying to beat the camera,
right.
which causes accidents. Now, I haven't seen studies in a long time, whether good, bad, and ugly. Some people don't want Big Brother watching them at the red light as you pick your nose or whatever you're doing. People don't want cameras out there, so there's like people that lobbyists that don't want that.
Yeah,
you know. And then over the last few years, there's been interesting private companies that have been monitoring the traffic cameras that are live feeds, and they've been recording that live feed from the Nevada Department of Transportation. What's very, very interesting is that they stop those private companies from taking the live feed and downloading it and saving it and actually selling that data to law firms or to regular people that need it. And they figured out which IP addresses are actually taking all that data.
Oh, wow.
Which was interesting because some people had the data.
Yeah.
And how were they able to get it? But somehow the Department of Transportation basically stopped it from happening, which would be really good for if you got into a car accident and you need the video. At least there was a private company that was actually recording it, even if the state wasn't doing it. Mm-hmm. But that could tremendously help an accident. But if you get into an accident like on a regular roadway, you can hire a private investigator and so on to go to a Chevron gas station and ask to check the cameras. Or these days, they have all these the doorbells basically that have the camera. So you could do what they call a canvas of an area to see if there's any video footage that's available to help your case. Because a lot of these days, people call me and firms all the time, and they say, "Oh, it's a hit and run. They left. It's a blue car, and it's a Honda that went northbound on the 215." But like, you're basically done,
right?
If there's no witnesses, and the police are so busy, they don't have time to follow through unless there's a plate or a partial plate, and so it's definitely a problem. These hit and run cases, and I feel really, really bad, for some of these people, especially when they're severely injured.
Let me ask you this. I feel like this is a common mistake people probably make, is what they do in the first, let's say, half hour or hour of being in an accident when you're not at fault is crucial, right? Meaning, if you get rear-ended, your adrenaline, or if you get hit, whether it's rear-ended or not, your adrenaline kind of kicks in. And you might actually be hurt, but you don't even realize it, right? And so a lot of people maybe don't ask for medical or don't go to a hospital just to get checked because they think they're okay. And that can hurt them later on, right?
It's very interesting because when I was a police officer for 17 years, I never really knew the other side of things. Like when you get into an accident, like I would never say, "Oh, go to the hospital," right? I would just license, registration, insurance. I would see who's at fault and basically write a ticket, ambulance, tow the car. And it was a lot of a process, the police process for that. But the truth is that if you're injured or slightly injured or a headache or something, you really need to document it and also get checked out for your medical well-being. Not about the money situation, it's about well-being. But if you don't document it within 24 to 48 hours, let's say you have problems a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now. The problem with this, the insurance companies will say, "Oh, you're not injured, you feel fine."
Right.
And then you have to fight with the insurance company to get any money or to get any medical attention. So these days, if someone gets in an accident, they feel slight pain or a headache or something, you really should just get checked out to document this situation, because these insurance companies will fight tooth and nail, especially now, like with the fires in California, right? Billions of dollars. They're going to try to stop any type of claim. And I'm sure we've seen this with the medical, and this is where that the shooting took place in New York City, where people are upset with the medical insurance industries because they're always denying claims.
Right.
Somehow they always probably say, deny the claim at first, and if they appeal it, then we look into it, right?
Right.
But if they deny everybody's claim, eventually people get tired of the process where they'll save money, right? The insurance companies. But to protect yourself, and what I always say to get justice for yourself is you have to go to the hospital. You have to go to urgent care. You have to go to a primary doctor.
No matter what.
Just to get checked out, because if you're it depends upon the accident, right?
Sure.
And how much damage. But if you're rear-ended, cars are made where it looks a lot better, the car.
Yep.
But the impact, you can feel it physically through the car, right?
Right.
So there may not be a lot of damage, but you felt the impact in your back.
Right.
And if you had previous injuries or you've been injured before, you have to get checked out to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
And if you're fine, you're fine. Of course, you're not going to make a frivolous claim if you're not injured, but you have to document it. And recently, the other day, I had someone that got into an accident. They waited maybe 3-4 weeks. They said their back is bothering them. and then they went to an attorney to get some help, and they're like, look, you didn't treat for 3-4 weeks.
Right.
The insurance company basically is not going to believe you, and we can't help you.
Right.
So that person basically is not getting justice, and they're truly injured. They're not making it up.
Yeah.
But the average person doesn't realize they need to, A, go to the doctor right away.
Sure.
How do you know if your spine is not off a little bit?
You don't in the
accident?
moment. Yeah. I mean, it's like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym and you work out real hard, you may not feel it until 2 days later. And then you're like, wow, my back is stiff or whatever. It's from the workout from 2 days ago. It's kind of the same thing with a car accident, right? You get hit. You're going 50 miles per hour. You don't know.
But I think in any accident, I think that you should get checked out, especially if children, you really don't know.
Yeah.
So it's important. And I think the only way of truly getting justice is to document the situation, which means what? You should have a police officer come there. You may have to wait an hour, 2 hours, which is horrible. There's less cops on the street in general, but you need to document it with the police. You need to take photos of the car, video, distance of where you are in general, right? Because the police may need it, or your attorney may need it, or the insurance company may need it. So in some regards, you kind of got to be like a little bit of a police officer before the police get there, right? You got to try to take a photograph of their license, their registration, their insurance, try to get their phone number. Some people are going to be a stickler. They're like, you're the one that caused the accident. I don't want to give you my number. I don't want to give you my insurance, right? So that's where you have to take pictures and video of the car. Even the person driving, some people will jump seats, right? And we've heard this before. So pictures of the person, if you can take it without getting into a fight with the person. I always joke around saying, like, you take your phone and they're not looking, and you put your phone basically to your chest and just snap a few photos, because later on they're gonna be like, oh no, the other guy was driving. Like, what are you talking about? This is the guy. I have his photo. Most people, right, you're in shock. You don't know what to do. It's upsetting. Your car is damaged. You're calling the police. They're telling you it takes an hour. You're in the middle of the street. Do I move the car? Do I not? Which, of course, if you have to move your car to safety, you have to do that, but take some pictures first, and then move your car over if you're able to do so. Sometimes the car is like demolished; you can't do that. So
if you're at fault, is there ever a path where you get, and you also get hurt? So you're at fault, you get hurt, the other person's hurt. Can you still get paid out from your own insurance company, or how does that work?
So I always tell people it's not about the money, it's about your health first, right? So if you have separate insurance, supplemental insurance, which is basically called or UIM, which is underinsured motorist or underinsured, this is extra insurance that basically helps you if you're injured yourself and you don't maybe have health insurance, right? You don't have health insurance, you don't have a job right now, you're in between jobs. You have extra insurance to help basically with your medical bills. There's also something called MedPay, right? And that's why you need to get with your insurance agent like once a year to check where you're at. While insurance goes up, you may want to reduce some of your insurance because you want a lower rate, but what are you losing out? And I remember when I met with my insurance agent one time, I said, look, it's expensive, the insurance. They're like, no problem, let's evaluate. Like, do you need MedPay? Like, you work right now, you have a full-time job? I'm like, yeah, I have insurance. They're like, okay, you don't need MedPay. I didn't even know what MedPay was. MedPay is just extra money where, like, it's a medical payment, MedPay. When you basically get into an accident, you have 10 grand, 20 grand to use towards medical bills right away. I didn't really know what it was. And I was a police officer at the time. I didn't fully understand, but he's like, you have medical insurance. Why do you need MedPay? I'm like, okay. So my insurance goes down, but what did I do? I lost the benefit.
Right.
So when I get into a car accident, I'm like, do I have MedPay? Like everyone was asking. Like, no, I don't have MedPay. I have insurance. And so to get that extra money, I didn't have the supplemental insurance, which would have helped my situation that time. So you have to get with a good insurance agent and really go over your policy once a year. I'm sure you probably don't know. Do you have MedPay?
I have no idea.
Do you have UM?
No clue.
UIM?
I have no clue.
Abbreviation letters, right?
Right.
What does it mean?
And I feel like most people just get the quote unquote minimum, right? What's the minimum? Because they want it as cheap as possible, but sometimes cheap is expensive.
I mean, that's the problem. You're paying insurance for the what if. You may never get into an accident in 20 years. So why did I pay for UM and UIM, right?
Right.
Until the day you need it, until the day you're injured. And it depends upon your work.
Sure.
Whether you have medical insurance or if you have Medicaid or Medicare, stuff like that. It's important to have the right insurance. You really need every year, even though it's easy to procrastinate.
Right.
Sit down with your insurance. What the hell do I have? If I get hit by a tractor trailer, am I good?
Right.
And then a lot of times, whether your passengers are in the car, right? If you have that extra insurance, that covers them if you're at fault. I will say, don't run, because there are people in Las Vegas and all of the United States. They'll get into an accident, they're at fault, they think the police are coming.
Big mistake.
They'll run.
Yeah.
They'll get tickets. They can get arrested for criminal. It just pays to just be like, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I mean, you may wind up just getting some tickets. You can hire an attorney for that as well. But of course, you want to have proper insurance, and you shouldn't be driving on the road if you don't have insurance. Because imagine if your mother, your father, your aunt, uncle, nephews, right? If you hurt somebody, you want to make sure that you have proper insurance. God forbid you got into an accident without the intent to hurt somebody. At least you're protecting others. If you want to be a good person and a good citizen, have insurance. The state limits to protect other people as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just to be a good person, I think is important, especially in Las Vegas, where I think everybody's driving kind of recklessly, right? Like I know
crazy.
my dad's like, did you see that guy? Did you see him driving?
Well, and the speed limits are so different here. Like in LA on the streets, the speed limit's like 35. Once in a while, 40. Here it's 45 or up on the streets. So it's like I always say, like, we don't have fender benders here. We have just carnage. like you rarely see like just, two cars got in an accident and there's just the guy's got a little scratch on his bumper. In LA, you see it all the time. Here, it's like
major damage.
Major damage. Cars flipped over. I mean, I see everything here.
I think it's because everybody here is from a different location.
Yeah.
Right? We all drive differently. Some guys from Arkansas, guys from New York, someone's
Why are you
from
picking
LA.
on Arkansas?
So,
yeah.
So the bottom line is that it's a problem. People are all driving at different speeds. Like I said, my dad, being from New York and a taxi cab driver for many years, he sees a car. He's like, look at that guy go. I mean, sometimes they're young people with a fast car. But I think you have to have composure these days, basically driving, even if someone's doing something wrong. These days with reckless driving, some guy can have a gun in a car and basically you pull up and what are you doing? And he shoots at you.
Sure.
And we've had a lot of reckless drivers, road rage situations. And you have to be very careful because you just don't know who that person is in the car. You don't know if they're on drugs, they're on alcohol, if there's a gun.
Right. Especially in this town, it's alcohol is so easy to get 24 hours a day here. Yeah, and everyone's working different shifts in this town, right? You got the nightlife people that work graveyard and casinos. So there's so many people on the road that you don't know what the situation is.
You have to be careful in general. So proper insurance, get with your insurance agent, and you got to be careful driving. And especially if it's, depending where you are, like there's more accidents. Well, I feel like these days there's like everything's off, what do you call it? In every area these days, like if I say, like Flamingo in Maryland is like a top area for accidents.
Yeah.
It's like a major intersection for accidents. I mean, you could look up the intersections, and if you're working in that area, you know to be more careful. But I do believe things happen everywhere. And I think the biggest problem is that people are trying to get through a red light. They see yellow and they go through red.
Right.
I did come up with something a long time ago. I was on TV talking about it, where I call it the 7-second rule. Have you heard me talk about that before?
No.
People are going to laugh about it in general like that. Some people think it's a little long. If you're basically driving, the lanes are like the first lane, the second lane, the third lane, and there's turn lanes. But if you're in the number one lane and you're basically at a red light, when that light turns green, you should count 7 seconds.
Okay.
Now, if you're in the number one lane, you count 1.
People are definitely honking behind you.
At 5 or 6 seconds, someone's beeping.
Yeah.
But depending, if you're in the first lane and someone goes to a red light,
right.
1, 2, 3, it probably passes.
Right.
If you're in the middle lane, it's probably 4, 5.
Oh, interesting.
And if you're in the third lane, it's 6, 7.
Yeah.
So if you count 7 seconds, no matter what,
right,
it pretty much
you won't get
protects
blasted.
You, right? Because if the light turns
I'm
from red
definitely
to green,
aware. I check because I absolutely do.
Check.
Yeah, especially at night.
They're trying to beat the light.
Yep.
Right? And then if you're at a red light and it turns green and you press on that gas,
you might get
guy's
smashed.
going through.
Yep.
So at 7 seconds, even though technically there's what we'll call social peer pressure.
Yep, they're honking behind you.
Honking.
You're doing everybody a favor.
But the most important really is the I guess it's all the lanes, because even if you count 7 seconds, the guy on the right, like he's going through, he's more likely to get hit.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
They're coming through. You got to count 7 seconds if you really want to avoid an accident. And I call it the 7-second rule.
I kind of like that.
But people don't want to do that. People like to work. We're running. We're not looking and stuff. But you got to be so careful,
especially at night, man. Late at night when it's empty, people are flying around this town.
And in the future, it may get passed where there will be red light cameras. Mm-hmm. If there's red light cameras in the future, that means people are going to try to stop before the red light, which means you're more likely to rear-end somebody.
You know what? I'm surprised that we don't have brake lights on the front of the car. Why don't we do this? Because it would help so much, right? Because then also you'd know, like when you're about to turn, or if you're making a left, and the light changes, wouldn't you like to know if that guy's on the brake or not as he's coming towards you? Like, I don't know why the car makers don't give us brake lights in the front too, because it would be helpful to know, is this guy on the gas or is he Is he?
I've never heard someone say
is
that.
he hitting the brake? Like I can't even believe no one's thought of this. Can I trademark this somehow? Is this a verbal? Is there such thing as a verbal trademark on a podcast?
That's going to be a good question to ask our viewers. They can comment below whether or not there should be brake lights on the front of the car. I guess what you're saying is the person that's making a left or yielding left,
right?
You want to know if he's on the brake or the gas,
right? Yeah, or like if I'm making a left, and so if I'm on Trop in the strip, and I'm going to make a left onto the strip, right? I want to know, is that guy coming?
Well, technically, visually, right? You're seeing him stop.
I see him, but sometimes you don't know. It's deceiving when they're going real fast. You know what I mean?
So my accident with the Stables, that person was yielding while making a left-hand turn.
Really?
But I feel the person was a little bit into the roadway, into my number one lane when I was driving. They were waiting, with so it's interesting.
Yeah.
A quick tip to share with you as well is when you're in that lane, that left-hand turn lane or right-hand turn lane, your wheels should never really be tilted to the left or to the right. Until you turn. You know why?
No.
If someone hits you from behind, whether on purpose, with intent or without, you're going to fly in that direction.
Oh.
They will push you.
Oh, right. You want to go straight.
Traffic.
Yeah.
You'd want to go straight if someone rear ends you. So you got to be very careful on the left turn lane or the right turn lane, not to have your wheels turned until you actually make that turn. Because if someone hits you, you'll go straight.
Right.
If your wheels are turned to the left or right, you're going to go all the way to the right, all the way to the left. You're going to go into oncoming traffic. You've probably seen in movies.
Sure.
With someone, like they hit the car and then they wind up in front of it could be a huge truck and they get killed.
You just brought up something that made me think. Liability-wise, let's say I'm the number 2 car in an intersection. I'm trying to make a left, and I'm the number 2 car. Right now, the guy behind me rear ends me and pushes me into the guy in front of me. How does all that work? Is that guy in front? Does the lead car get paid by me and the guy behind me?
It appears that most attorneys will basically.
It all goes back to the money for me. You notice that? I'm never talking about safety. I just want to know who's getting the fucking check.
So basically, the insurance company for the front car will probably go after both cars.
Right.
Because maybe you were too close.
Yeah.
Maybe you were following too close to the other car. Maybe you were further back. You wouldn't have hit the other car. But your car would go after the car behind you, or the first car would go after number 3.
Right.
Normally, they would say the car that basically causes the accident is the
He's
number 1 car.
He's in charge of everything, right?
Yeah. But they can play back and forth, and they may try to see if you did something wrong as well. But it's great to get a check. We see all these billboards out there where it says,
right. It's all over town. I would say 90% of the billboards in this town is personal injury attorneys, right?
It's a sad situation. I always talk about getting justice for people, and I feel bad for people that, like I said, I got a call yesterday. It was a hit and run, and the person was injured, and they have no extra insurance, and they don't have medical, so they're screwed, And I feel bad as being a cop for 17 years. I really truly believe in getting justice for people, and I feel bad because I can't help them. I can't refer them to an attorney. There's no traffic camera these days to basically try to get a license plate. It's very, very difficult, and a lot of people don't have the money for medical bills. They can be injured for the rest of their life. Their car's totaled.
Sure.
I mean, it's major devastation. People don't even have a car. They may only have one car at home, and to get to work. They could lose their job. So it is devastating. It does affect the financial aspects of someone's home. But yeah, it's great to get a check. If you're not so injured where the rest of your life you're going to be affected. Like I said myself, I've had some small accidents in the past. It does bother me with my back once in a while, and then it affects my leg. I don't really know if it's from the accident or from being a cop and wearing that like heavy duty belt for 17 years. But it's never good to be in pain. Yes, it's great to have money. Yes, the billboards, right? The call to action is to basically make money in general. But when you have an accident where you like can't walk and you get $1 million, what's $1 million at the end?
Right.
Like, is your life, if I gave you $1 million right now, does your life change that much? Fine, you're going to go buy maybe a car, right? A new car, which will last, 5-7 years.
Yeah.
And then, maybe you have some new clothes or something. Like, in the long run, the money's going to dry up. Right. And most people are not going to invest the money, just like they say, people that win the lottery, right?
They go broke, right?
They go broke, or they owe more money, or they wind up getting
like 3
killed.
years, something crazy.
So, like I said, it's great to get a check if you're injured, but you want to get better. And honestly, having a good attorney to help you basically get the justice that someone deserves is key. Also getting the right medical attention and having an attorney basically using strategies to help you get the most amount of money and get you medical attention is important. When you have an accident case, that's where I try to basically be more of a liaison and a network of attorneys, even though I love helping solve anyone's problems and refer them and give them some different resources, right?
Yeah.
But my goal really is to help people And most people just not educated, or they feel intimidated by an attorney, or they don't know that there's free resources that are available from the city or the county to help people, or they don't know about the cameras.
Yeah.
Everyone in this town, if you ask 100 people, they think those cameras are being recorded.
Yeah, for sure they do.
Which means that you need like a private investigator or an attorney to maybe get that footage elsewhere by doing a canvas, by having a private investigator doing some research on the car or the license plate. You know, maybe you have a partial plate. And sometimes the attorneys are lazy. I'll share a quick story recently, which I didn't get a chance to tell you, is that there was a guy recently that got into a car accident where he had a motorcycle. He basically flipped over onto a trailer.
Oh, my God.
And the trailer, supposedly the guy saw him, that he was in the trailer. He's injured. He does, at the time, he doesn't realize he has a broken arm. Mm-hmm. He's in the trailer, and the guy basically is like kind of a hit and run, but he's running with the guy on the trailer. He goes like maybe 5 to 7 minutes driving around. Supposedly, this guy is basically saying, hey, pull over, please. Like basically like it was like a bad movie.
Yeah.
Finally, he passes by a Tesla, which Teslas, right, have the video.
Yep.
And then finally the guy stops. He rolls off the trailer, and the person in the Tesla was just coming out of the home, calls the police, gets an ambulance, and so on. So the Tesla basically had video of the car, but no license plate. People think it's so easy, right? Like, and I don't have a Tesla. I really want to do some more research. Tesla just shows the car going off. So at least that maybe he lives in that area, maybe he doesn't, but you really need a private investigator to research. I actually helped out with this particular situation where I just helped a guy who I knew. I made some phone calls to the witness, and he found out the address of the home where that car belonged to. But people are tricky, and I believe that the car was sold. Like a week later, there was damage on the car. Mm-hmm. There was no plate on the car. There was like a temporary registration. Mm. I think that the guy got rid of the car.
Yeah.
And he's was hiding it out. But the guy basically almost died, had surgery, $60,000 in medical bills. He's on pain meds right now. Person's depressed, upset, got kicked out of his house, young guy in general. And the guy basically needs help. But the attorneys that I think he was working with didn't want to hire a private investigator because it costs money. But you need to have a good law firm that basically is going to have a private investigator that's going to work on it, that's going to go out and talk to that witness, to literally drive to that spot, get out of the car, look around a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Whether it's the attorney, whether it's someone in the law office that has some experience, background like a retired police officer, or hire a private investigator to do a little more research.
Right.
Because otherwise, if you don't have that license plate or you don't have that address, you have no case.
Right.
And then what does the lawyer say? I'm sorry, we tried our best that we could, and the police didn't get the information. And the sad part is you can't always you can't always rely on the police.
Right.
They have so many cases.
Right.
The police officer really should go out to that area and do the same thing.
Right.
But they have 100 cases, and sometimes it's easier. They try a little bit and then just close out the case, and it is what it is.
Let me ask you this. I know we're in Las Vegas right now, and I know you have a lot of relationships in LA, but if somebody's listening to this in Iowa and they get in a car accident and they're not at fault, you can help them?
So I do have a nationwide network of attorneys in every state. One of the numbers that we use is 1-844-LAWYERS, which is nationwide. So when you call, that can be diverted to an attorney that's in New York, that's in Iowa, that's in different states. So the goal is to have help, especially if you're a motorcycle guy and you're driving a motorcycle where it's across the United States. We have attorneys in every state. So when you call 1-844-LAWYERS, it does get diverted upon what city that you're in or what area code that you live in. So right now, if you called and you want an attorney in LA, or you call from a 213 area code, when you call 1-844-LAWYERS, it would divert to the LA attorney. The whole purpose of my network is to basically get them to an attorney in the city or the state that they live in and get them help and get them justice and get them to a good attorney that will use private investigators. And especially these days with all these hit and runs throughout the U.S., having a good attorney that will spend the money, spend the time to basically help people get justice, and also compensation for pain and suffering if they're going to have pain and suffering for, whether it's 6 months or a year or 5 years or for the rest of their life. And I've seen people physically, for their entire future, they're going to be really messed up. And as you get older, it's only going to get worse. So the goal is really, contacting myself or an attorney is crucial when you have an accident in the beginning. I don't care what attorney that you call, just you need to get some help.
Right.
I mean, I love to help people with problems, people that get accidents or arrested or any issue they have. I love the whole problem solver theme because I'm still a police officer at heart, even though it's been 10 years that I've been retired.
Sure.
I'm helping people with problems, and people do text and call me 24/7, and I just get a lot of satisfaction by helping people at the time of need. And like I said, if you call the police, right, there's not enough police officers. If you call 311, we could test it out right now. It would take maybe 90 minutes to get through.
Right.
The goal with the problem solver is to have a hotline where you basically have a problem, you call, and then we'll either refer you to the right resource or to the right person, or give them different ideas and suggestions how to fix their problem, whether it's with their neighbor or with somebody else. So for 2025, the goal is to make the problem solver a hotline for the state of Nevada where it can get people help and solve their problems, because not everything is a police problem. And a lot of things are community problems, and the problem solver and a lot of the retired police officers that I work with are able to help solve problems by having different resources and different strategies. And that's why we're happy, 24/7 to help people.
I have one more question.
Go for it.
If you get in an accident and there's a lot of damage, you're the victim. Can you ask your lawyer for like an advance on money that you're gonna get, assuming the things go in your favor?
It's interesting because I've seen some advertisements recently that say that they'll give money in advance. The attorney is not allowed to give any money in advance, the attorney himself. But there are different companies that basically give loans to people that are involved in an accident. Just like if you were going to win the lottery or get some insurance money, but it's going to take 6 months from now, there are companies that will charge you an interest rate in order to basically get money in advance. But you have to be very careful because the rates are high. So it depends if it's a short-term loan or a long-term loan, which is interesting. Because if your case is going to take 3 years and you basically borrow $5,000, that $5,000 could be $40,000 because you basically have interest rate for 3 years.
Right.
So it's important to get with your attorney to figure out that when they're working on the case, if I borrow money now and I have the case, how long is it going to be? How much will it be if the $5,000 I have to wait 3 years to get money from the actual claim or the lawsuit? How much am I going to lose? So that's an important question to ask. If it's going to be a quicker case and you have to pay it back. Also, some people really need money right away. They lost their job, a broken arm, they can't work. That money could be crucial for them. So sometimes you have to pay that interest rate in order to basically survive life. So there are several loan companies out there. You can Google them online and basically see what's best, read through the paperwork, see what the rates are, compare them, and then they can actually get with your attorney and with an attorney's approval can get that loan. And it depends upon the case, depends upon the damage and whether or not there's insurance confirming the liability for their driver, confirming that they were negligent for that car accident so that the loan company feels more secure that it is a real case. And also you have to treat, right? If you're injured, you're treating. If you don't treat, the case is no good. You're not going to get paid for pain and suffering. So it's important to treat and follow the process with an attorney to get better health-wise and to get a check at the end for pain and suffering.